Very good, Chair. If we revert back, and I want to thank our guests for coming in today to us, if we revert back to March and April, our focus was on flattening the curve, and rightly it was, and everybody was cooperating then. At the height of the pandemic, we had 879 patients in hospital. 160 of those were in ICUs, and it appears that great work is done by everyone. I sympathise with anyone who lost their life and the trauma. However, our objective is confusing now. We don't know where we are because, as I said, as at 8 p.m. last night, we had 23 cases of COVID-19 across 29 acute hospitals.
22, they gave information at their opening statement. It's 22.
Sorry, 22. Today. Okay.
Yeah.
Dumb scale, and 4 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in ICU beds. So really,
today. Sorry, it's 22 and 6 today, but in any event, it's lower than it was in April.
Yes, thank you, which is better again. But so the people are rightly concerned as to why we have this lockdown, especially in the 3 counties, out of 1 county now, but why we have a whole industry regarding the pub industry closed down. They didn't have any part to play in spreading this, and it's clear to that. So the damage to the economy, the damage to mental health, the damage to all the other side effects, people waiting for a plethora of procedures. So I'm asking why, and can we not give a clear message now, or a timeline, or a roadmap out of this situation to try and have our economy recover and people's mental health and all the other issues, back to school, everything else. So could we have some clarity around that, please?
Yeah, Deputy, I'll answer succinctly as I can, just in 2 aspects. First of all, in terms of the hospital cases that you just referenced and being low, obviously, thankfully, and we want to keep it that way. The uncertainty of what we face right now, as we've seen a rapid increase in the transmission of the virus below the ages of 45. I think 75%, probably 80% on some occasions of the positive cases now are below the age of 45. The concern for us would be obviously the community transmission and the impact on in terms of other groups. But I would make the message and make the point, nobody is immune to this, and nobody is immune to some of the impacts of it. So younger people may think they may not suffer from it. We've extreme cases of people who have really bad illness through COVID. But our concern specifically is the spread of transmission further in the community and further into vulnerable groups, and particularly older people again. So we want to protect our hospitals in that regard. Secondly, in relation to just the aspects of the measures that are taken at different stages, obviously they're recommended by NEFIT, and I know you have our colleagues in later on, and recommended based on the best knowledge that they have at the time and on to government. From our perspective, I understand the concern. From a health service perspective, it is key for us. The impacts of lockdowns are very significant. The impacts on the health service and recovery, but also the many aspects of the impacts on the public. In terms of the impacts of our service being constrained or sometimes shut down are very significant, and some of the mental health impacts can be very significant. So I think we're all trying to find an approach that keeps the economy going, that keeps our society going, and that can keep our health services going, but equally can protect our public, because, as I said in my opening statement, that's important for the health service, and that's important for us protecting the health service, but it's also important for the way we're seeing the virus transmit at the minute.
Thank you. I also didn't have a situation that, again, gives mixed messages, how in an event in my county, in Golden, and I want to compliment the community there, and an incident broke out 2 weeks ago now in Walsh Mushrooms, and I got a phone call from Kate Killeen, the HSE, who I want to thank, and she kept me informed. And the Army, the Guard, the ambulance service and everybody else rolled in and did the testing on a parish, in a parish site. And then contrast that with rumours abounding about a planting care for weeks, finally admitted last week, and then testing being done privately. And now you have just told somebody previously that the tests are being paid for by the HSE. And we could get no information, no phone calls from the HSE. They had no information. We could get no information yesterday or all weekend about the number of tests. Number of shops had to issue statements, excellent shops in our wonderful town of Care, that there wasn't, to deny rumours of incidents in their places. So there was a huge mixed messages and huge different treatment for a community in Tipperary, for a big business in Tipperary. And we value those businesses, but that's the whole situation of special treatment. And now we find that the HSE are paying for it anyway. And I want to know what the control over those tests, and how come we couldn't get the answers until very, very late. I also want to ask briefly about St Bridget's in Carrick-on-Suir, a wonderful community hospital taken over for COVID. When is it going to go back? There are 3 hospice beds there for elderly and people in their last days. They need those as well. That's not being used. When is it going to go back? A definite date. And I also have a question to ask. Why was it ceased the meetings? At the start of this outbreak, we all party leaders and group leaders were briefed once a week by yourselves. We hadn't had a meeting with 2 months. So why the secrecy, and why are we not being engaged with? We're expected to support you in all the work you do, and we have done, but we need to have a quid pro quo and have to have information.
If you could just maybe give a very brief answer to Deputy McGrath.
Can you just clarify one point briefly, Chair, or can I respond?
Yeah.
Yeah, just to clarify, what I did say earlier on is the mass testing and serial testing completed by the HSE is paid for by the HSE. Other private testing that's done and through private testing systems is not paid for by the HSE. I just want to make that distinction.
Thanks very much. Maybe on the issue of the hospitals that Deputy McGrath outlined, could you reply in writing to Deputy McGrath, maybe as soon as is practicable, rather than now? But if there's any other question.
Well, our meetings, we had weekly briefings with NEFID and with the Taoiseach Taoiseach and all leaders of groups and parties. They have stopped with the last 2 months at least. And you know, I know a lot of them weren't hugely useful, but at least we need to be kept abreast. All our groups, meaning the representatives of the people, need to know what's going on.
Just briefly.
Why were they stopped?
Yeah, sorry.
Briefly, Deputy or Chair. Yeah, just briefly. We've made ourselves available on any occasion, and obviously we'll continue to do so, to request of the Oireachtas and request of the Oireachtas Committee. Oh. And we've had a wide range of our teams and staff throughout the last few weeks, and obviously continue to do so and do our preparation for it.
But maybe it's meant to be directed at the political leadership and Deputy. Our Minister, the Minister for Health will be coming in later this afternoon. I just want to point out also that the HSE did make themselves available for a meeting 2 weeks ago when we asked them to. We didn't proceed with it, but they did make themselves available.
No, I accept that. I'm talking about the briefings for the party and group leaders. They were weekly and we all attended. They suddenly stopped and haven't. Way before the summer recess, they didn't continue. They haven't continued, so maybe it's a political question.
And the HSE's position is it is available for briefings if and when required.
Just Chair, I'll say as I said it, we will make ourselves available as requested by the Oireachtas. We've done it throughout the committee stages. We've done it. I know we do media briefings which are not Oireachtas, but we've made ourselves available as requested. And I think the Oireachtas Committee was established, which I think was different. But again, we've presented here regularly and as often as requested, and we'll continue to do so.
Noted and appreciated. Thanks. Can I